G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Ami Bateman from Pleasant State. She's based in Sunshine Coast, Australia, just a little bit northeast of Brisbane. Thanks for your time today, Amy.
Thanks, Troy.
Let's start with how we know each other. Anita Dalmberg down here in Hobart, where I'm based, from Bespoke, which is a B Corp consulting business. She's just started up. So you met with her recently and she thought you might be a great guest to come on the cast.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Yeah, so Pleasant State, we created Australia's very first Just Add Water cleaning bars that when dissolved in water creates a multi-purpose, a bathroom and a glass cleaner, a hand wash and a dishwash and a floor cleaner, which we recently launched. The reason we're doing that is we're on a mission to eradicate single-use plastics and toxic cleaning chemicals from your homes.
Fantastic. Similar space, I had Mike, one of the founders of Xero Co with a Z, not the accounting software. They will get to crowdfunding in a minute, but yeah, they did a successful crowdfund raise as well. And they're doing great things, cleaning up the oceans, single-use plastic, similar model, bit different to you guys in what they offer, but another great brand and doing great things.
Yeah, it's a really important category, and Xero Co has demonstrated that there's a lot of interest and potential in it. So yeah, congrats to them.
How did you start out?
Yeah, so at the time I had the idea for Pleasant State. I'd been suffering from chronic headaches for over 2 years, and I worked with my healthcare professionals, and we identified that my home environment was probably playing a role in that. So most people don't know that our indoor home environments are 5 times more toxic than outdoor air pollution, and the impact on Australians' health is about 12 billion per annum. That's estimated by the CSIRO. So as I started to eradicate toxins and plastics, so plastics are in so many things, our mattresses, pillows, carpet, cookware, beauty products, and even cleaning products, the packaging it's housed in. I realized that cleaning was an area that was really difficult for me to remove both toxins and cleaning products. I also uncovered that our cleaning products are 95% plus water. And then I was just like so surprised when I heard that. Why are we transporting around all this water when we can actually get it from our tap at home? And then we just throw away the plastic at the end of the day, which is a massive issue. Decided this concept of Just Add Water was amazing. It didn't exist in Australia, and the options overseas weren't effective, and they weren't addressing the real problems around toxins and plastics. So I just decided, given my background, I was going to go make Australia's first, and I've done just that. I guess the reason I believed that I could do it, I've always worked on big projects, solving really big, complex problems. I've worked across all areas of business, from marketing, health and safety, HR, risk, technology, and now obviously I've got the product, and works for some of Australia's biggest organizations like GM Holden, Transurban, Ernst & Young. And then when at Ernst & Young, I got to work with the likes of Australia Post, Telstra. And then when I joined a tech startup, I got to add McDonald's to the list, which is an incredible company. But that breadth combined with my MBA and all my networks, I guess I just knew that I'd be able to assemble the right team to really address this really big problem that we're really not aware about.
Yep. So you're at Ernst & Young. What year did you decide to quit that and start a business?
Yeah, well, you're testing me now. I think it's about eight years ago. So I was a senior manager in the climate change and sustainability team. There, I was leading really big multi-million-dollar projects, predominantly in the health and safety space, which really leveraged technology and really big workforce to do live site health and safety inspections, which was amazing. I denied I was an auditor for a good 2 years. And then one day I realized I was like the poster child for audit in Ernst & Young, along with a number of other people, which was fascinating, but really good skill to have. I had a passion for work health and safety. I liked that it was more a compliance-based thing versus sustainability at the time, which was still a nice to have. And I noticed a lot of businesses would cut budgets in that space, and there was so much greenwashing at the time, that work health and safety was something I could really get businesses to do. So combined with my passion for technology and also work health and safety, I joined a technology startup after Ernst & Young, which is where I implemented health and safety software at McDonald's, NAB and IAG over an 18-month period. And then I had an idea basically to leverage their software. So I negotiated to become a partner to that business. I went back to Ernst & Young and said, I can build your next version of the technology they were using, and do it better and cheaper. And so that's when I set up my first business, Syzygy, which is now the holding company for Pleasant State. Yeah, and I implemented that software at Ernst & Young over a period of 2 years, and it's a global solution.
Oh, great. Fantastic. So what year then did you start Pleasant State effectively?
Yeah, 17th of February 2020. So just a couple of weeks out from the world going into a tailspin with COVID.
Great time to start a business. Yeah. So be 3.5 years ago now. And so how old were you when you started this business?
35, which if you look at the stats, I think that's the average age that female founders start their own business.
All right. Didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a stat I came across a while ago.
Yep. And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over the last 3.5 years?
Yeah, definitely. We're actually just preparing these for our equity crowdfunding. So in FY22, which was our first full financial year of trading, we did just over 440K in revenue. So that's excluding GST. We have adjusted that. So you'll hear publicly we talk about a 525K, but we had prepayments in there. So as we align to Australian standards accounting, we've shifted the prepayments into this financial year. So 440K in FY22, which was 150% growth on the prior year. And we hadn't done a full financial year then. This year we're sort of projecting, including the next month. So for the full financial year, we should hit about 750K. So that's a 70% growth on last financial year. But recently we're experiencing crazy growth, which is interesting to manage in addition to our equity crowdfunding. So the last 90 days, we've just exceeded 200K in revenue, which is 90% growth on last quarter.
Wow. Holy shit. That's great.
Yeah.
And I joined with the crowdfunding even before Anita put us in touch. I actually joined your expression of interest list. So I've been getting the emails, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm on a few. But did this PR that you're getting from the launch of the crowdfund, did one of your SKUs go up like sales-wise 600%?
You may have seen a reference to 60% growth month on month across March and April.
Yep.
But yeah, we've been running effectively a crowdfunding bundle. So this is part of our Facebook marketing campaign strategy, which is working really effectively, and that's driving really significant growth. So we're sitting on over $4,000 average daily sales at the moment. So it's sitting between 4 and 5K.
So if I've had enough coffee today, that's about 1.4 million annualized run rate. Yep. Okay. I won't need another coffee then. What about number of full-time team members you started with 3.5 years ago and where you're at now?
So yeah, 3.5. Sean and I were lucky enough to be eligible for JobKeeper because we both had existing businesses. And so that was really amazing. That got us through. So we didn't pay ourselves until JobKeeper ended. Our first hire, which was probably about 6 months in, was a graphic designer. And that I believe that was full time at that stage. And again, 6 months in, we would have had a part time pick packer. So we've probably gone from 1.5 to 4 FTEs.
Yep. So you guys pack and ship yourselves. You don't use a 3PL at the moment.
That's correct. So as part of our commitments to B Corp, we were really keen to do as much as we could locally because of COVID. And as we discussed, we launched right in COVID. I just had this real feeling that I needed to participate in stimulating the economy and creating jobs. And a really good way to do that was to set up our 3PL. It was also a strategic decision to really control that customer experience. and make sure that from order, or I guess from advertisement to order to fulfillment, that was really seamless. Particularly as we're building the brand, we want to make sure we keep our customers as happy as possible. I did a lot of research before around other small businesses and their experiences with 3PL, and I got really, I guess, not necessarily amazing feedback about outsourcing that. So in the early days, we made a decision to keep it in house, but that will likely change. That will possibly change in the not too distant future. That the sort of growth that we're experiencing, that's not particularly manageable at this point in time.
I agree. With a few businesses I've helped out or sat on boards of in the e-commerce space, so we've worked with quite a few 3PLs. So I'm happy to have a chat after this if you want.
Yes, I would love that. Yeah,
good, bad, and the ugly, and I can put you in touch with some of those founders as well, because they've obviously churned through a lot as well. So, but to scale, that's amazing. If you're doing 700 grand in FY23 with an ARR, annual recurring revenue, or run rate, I should say, of 1.4 with a team of 4 FTE, that's amazing.
Thank you.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
I would say that it was after the Telstra Nationals pitch. So we were finalists in the last, the 2023 Telstra Best of Business Awards across outstanding growth, promoting health, and champion sustainability. We took out the champion sustainability for Queensland, so we got to go to Telstra Nationals to pitch. And that was a really amazing opportunity because we got to pitch to the CEO of Frank Green, the CEO of Patch Band-Aid, so two really amazing eco B Corps. So Patch Band-Aid is a B Corp, and also the head of sustainable lending at ANZ. And Sean and I, my business partner, we just invested so much into making that pitch amazing. We're like, if this is it, like this is the time to really perform. And I just remember the judges were super impressed. In fact, we share their quote in our offer doc, which will be available very soon. And I just remember I didn't really mind if we won at that point in time. I walked out thinking, like, we've really done our best. We have these amazing people who are really experienced telling us that we're doing an amazing job, not just in managing planet and people impacts, but also from a profitability perspective, which has always been my goal, to balance people, planet, and profit. And I guess that was the moment that I realized it wasn't just this dream to demonstrate that we were doing that. We were actually doing that. I finally met my expectations. I have extremely high expectations. And so to meet that finally, I'm 38 now, it was just a great moment, because now I'm like, okay, like that's good enough. Anything now is going to be a bonus. So I hope that everyone can achieve that point, because it's good for me as a high achiever.
What does success look like to you?
So I mentioned briefly proving that doing good is good for business. So positively impacting people and planet while achieving a profitable business. Making sure that my customers are happy, that my team is happy, and we also hope to have a lot of fun along the way.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Yeah, that's a really good one. There's so many things I've learned. I might limit it to e-commerce, if that's okay, because that's my experience in fast-growing business, but that you really have to be an e-commerce expert. So I came to this with experience across all areas of business, not necessarily product, but I had a big focus on product. I feel I didn't necessarily put enough credit to being an e-commerce expert, and I really wish I'd done that a lot sooner.
Yep. All right. And you use Net Promoter Score. What's your number?
Yes, we do. When we did our brand Net Promoter Score, it was plus 78.
Wow.
Yeah, which we're just like so wrapped about. So that's obviously up amongst the who gives a crap of the world. And then what we also do anytime we launch a new product, we do product tester campaigns. So we ask 100 Australians to sign up to test our product. We assess, their existing products across a range of criteria, including efficacy, environmental claims and health claims and design. And then after they test our products, we retest them. And then we also ask them about Net Promoter Score. So always, even with our products, we always exceed plus 50 for product Net Promoter.
That's phenomenal. Positive 78, the general NPS you get for the audience, it's a positive or a negative. It's not a percentage. It's one question. How likely are you to recommend us to a friend or a colleague between 0 and 10, there's a way to work that out. I've written a blog post on that. We'll link through to that in the show notes so the audience can understand. But it's a really simple way to measure customer loyalty and a great metric to track. Well done on that score to you and the team.
Thank you.
And B Corp, maybe tell the audience a bit about your decision there early on, particularly to go down the B Corp path, and maybe firstly, what is a B Corp? Because it's a growing movement, but not everyone knows about it.
Definitely. So I have over 16 years of experience in sustainability. So I'm quite familiar with all the frameworks out there. And given I'd seen a lot of greenwashing in my time, I really wanted to build a better business. And I've been really curious about ethics and ethics in decision making and how it really changes as organizations grow. So my theory is that we as individuals, most of us are really ethical. I reckon 99% of us, but for whatever reason, as an organization forms, it becomes less ethical. So I guess we can hide behind other people in our decision making, or the culture and incentives kind of pervert behavior. So I wanted to leverage an ethical framework in building Pleasant State so we wouldn't sort of face that same challenge that other businesses do. And B Corp really seemed like the best option. So B Corp is a model that really sets the highest standards across environmental, social, governance areas of business. And so right from the get-go, when I was making decisions about how we build Pleasant State, anything from how transparent we are, how much we donate to charity, how much we pay our employees, I really looked to B Corp and what they considered best practice globally, and built Pleasant State on that basis. And then, one of our goals was to become B Corp certified, so have that externally verified that we are indeed meeting those standards. And so 11 months after shipping our products, we became the first Australian B Corp cleaning brand, which is a huge achievement. And as a former auditor, I was so surprised at how thorough they were. They audited 43% of my responses, which was huge.
Wow, it's a lot. From memory, it's a 200-point score. You need a minimum 80 points before you can get certified, isn't it?
Yes, correct. Yep, minimum at 80.
Yep. Yeah, great. And speaking of ethics, before we hit record, we were talking about the shit show that is PricewaterhouseCoopers at the moment, where I worked. I was not an auditor, but I leaned on my computing degree. But the comment you made about how ethics can change as businesses grow, and obviously that business is over 100 years old, and for someone to almost, if not, we'll find out in the near future, destroy that brand with a very poor ethical decision is just awe-inspiring. And how did you fund the business?
Yes, we've had to be very creative in funding Pleasant State. So until recently, we're bootstrapped, crowdfunded, and used sales to really grow Pleasant State. The key, I know you were keen to sort of talk about specifics, so I'm happy to share that. I mentioned that I had this other business, which is called Syzygy. I had some profit and cash in that business at the time COVID hit. So I made a decision to really use that and sort of convert that into the holding company for the operating entity, which trades as Pleasant State. So that was one. I was eligible because Syzygy existed for some of the COVID grants. So there was that 20K that we got. I was eligible for JobKeeper. Sean was too. So we were able to pay ourselves at least, not quite a living wage, but close to. And we've maintained that till now. So can't wait to raise some money. Would like to shift that dial a little bit. We continue to make founder equity contributions. So again, till recently, there were 4 co-founders who all worked in the business. So we put our own money in at different times throughout the course of building the business. Exceptional supplier terms. I can't talk about how important that is, particularly for our bottles. So we have to order 30,000 glass bottles at any time, which for a small business is huge. And without kind of the support of our bottle broker, there's no way we would have got to where we are. And they're not the only supplier that has been extremely favorable. So I think that's one that's often missed, but so critical. We've won a number of prizes or loans, including a 100K interest-free loan that we're paying back over 5 years, which was amazing. I mentioned sales. Recently, revenue share loans through the e-commerce space have been made available to us.
Is that, revenue lending like from Stripe or Square?
Correct. So we've used Wayflyer was one that we used originally. Then we've got a Shopify and a PayPal one currently. So that's just a really awesome way for e-commerce businesses to get access to some cash quickly to invest in growth or inventory.
It is great. A few of the businesses I'm involved with have leveraged that. So you can literally, money can be in your account in 2 business days. It's just putting the banking system to shame. For the audience, it's revenue lending, so that if it's not the payment gateway like Stripe or Square that you use, if it's Wayflyer, they'll ask to hook into your payment gateway and your Facebook ads and things like that, get the data and the analytics, and then say we're happy to lend you $40,000 for example, over 9 months, and you can get to choose what percentage of future sales starts to repay that. So it's a really smart model and way to do, and perfect for e-commerce businesses. Unlock a little bit of cash to tip back into marketing. So if you know all your ratios, LTV to CAC, and it's at least 3 to 1, so you're printing money, you're not going backwards, then you can just tip more into the top of the funnel. It's really smart by Stripe and Square and PayPal, etc.
I'm going to remember that stat, 3 to 1. Excellent. I learn things all the time on these podcasts. It's amazing. So yes, we've used that a number of times. That's been super helpful. I think it's important to remember though, that the interest terms can sometimes seem effective, but as you grow, and as we have, right, we're paying down these loans far quicker. We paid a rate at the beginning. So actually the real cost of interest to us is quite high, but at the same time, we can't get cash other ways, being early stage business that's not, kind of getting close to break even. Non-bank unsecured loans. So we got one through Lumi. We've had a few friend family loans. We also accessed the Export Market Development Grant at one stage and the R&D grant. So this is an area of the business that I managed on a daily basis.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what EMDG though? Are you exporting at the moment?
So it's an interesting story, but we launched Pleasant State through a pre-order crowdfunding campaign, and we launched to the UK at the same time that we opened it up to Australia to test the market a little bit. And so because of that, we had early initial exports to outside of New Zealand. And so we were able to access that at the beginning, which was kind of good for us, because at that time we'd invested a lot into the brand building. And so we were able to claim back some of that back.
So are you still selling into the UK, or you've paused that?
We paused that. I think it was a bit of a test for us and a bit of a marketing strategy through that crowdfunding campaign. But we really needed to focus on Australia and get that kind of right here first.
Yep. So that was a pre-sales crowdfund, obviously not equity.
Yeah, it was. That's correct.
And so if you do go back to export, obviously EMDG, you can't use it for New Zealand, but anywhere else, if you do go back to the UK, for the audience, you can get $40,000, $80,000 or $150,000 per annum. You need to match it from the government. But if you're serious about exporting, and something a guest told me last year, I'd just forgotten about it, you don't have to be exporting a physical product. It can be a service like online courses, etc. One guest was throwing that money into Facebook ads into the US, for example. The other one you may want to look at, if you haven't already, when you get back to exporting, is the export finance loan. So the government can bridge that gap. Say if there's 6 months between orders being literally put on a ship, landing, being sold, and then your distributor or over there paying you, there's often around a 6-month gap, and the federal government will provide a loan to bridge that gap.
Amazing.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
I feel like I should say no, so no one else does. But yeah, 100%. I think, and I would love that. I would love another crack. I'm sure everyone says that, if you could start with all money, you'd do things so differently. But yes, there's huge potential in this Just Add Water space. I was speaking to someone in the retail market who told me that at the moment, Just Add Water in this category is only about just over 1% of the retail market. So the growth opportunities are really huge.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so audience can learn from it?
Yes, definitely. So we were advised we were going to be on the front cover of Better Homes and Gardens. I probably shouldn't name them, but I will. It's time. Enough time has passed. And so we were like crazily modeling what that meant in terms of growth. I went and got a warehouse. We'd pre-committed to all this stock. And then I remember the moment the magazine comes out, I'm like, we're not on the front cover of Better Homes and Gardens. The Better Homes and Gardens had come out with a separate cleaning issue. And our bottle, oh my gosh, I still remember it to this day. Our bottle was like stuffed in this plastic tub with all this plastic other product. You couldn't even tell it was our bottle. And there was this conversation about how the editor's using all these cheap plastic products and she doesn't really care if they don't work. And just from a brand positioning, it was terrible. And I remember I'm sitting in the warehouse, my empty warehouse, knowing we are going to get no sales. And I've just committed to all of these things. And I was like, I don't know, we're going to get through this. So my biggest piece of advice there is there's no golden ticket, and particularly when it comes to PR that's unpaid, you do not, I guess, gamble at all on something like this. We were really lucky in the end because the shipment was really delayed on our bottles, and also the container prices jumped from sort of $1,500 to $10,000, and we'd already locked in our price. So actually, there were some benefits in it. The bottles literally arrived just when we needed them. So it kind of worked out, but I just would never, ever do that again. I would never expect such a big uptick from PR.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Becoming literate in e-commerce.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
That it is all consuming, that I don't currently have much of a life, if I'm honest.
And what do you love most about growing a small business?
That we're really having an impact on people's lives, and we're building a brand that people love, and we're really connected with customers. So I get proof of that every day, and that's just so rewarding.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
That there's actually an abundance of money out there. I don't come from a lot of money, and I definitely wasn't raised to be financially literate or to take risks. Definitely a scarcity mindset. So I've really had to learn that actually money, like anything else, there's a lot of it out there, and to be really comfortable with that sort of coming to us.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Financial literacy. Like, you have to know your numbers, you have to be in it. Probably looking at cash flow twice a day. It's just so critical.
Jump over to growasmallbusiness.com and leave your details to get a short 2-minute email I send on Fridays to help small business owners like you become better leaders. I include some reading or professional development resources I've discovered in the last week.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening? I know you're at about 4 FTE at the moment, but particularly the crowd fund, which is open when this episode goes live at the moment. If you get your maximum, I'm imagining you're going to be growing the team a little bit to help with manage all this growth, and so you both work balanced hours.
Yeah. I would love that. That's like the pipe dream. I have this goal of a 4-day work week. I've been aspiring to it forever.
It's really gaining momentum, the 4-day work week.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And I've done it and tested it at times, and yeah, your performance and productivity and just general happiness is so good. So number one, I always hire based on values. Like, value alignment is so critical, and back to that, maintaining ethics. That is the number one thing I look for. And then the next would be a learning mindset. And so if someone comes with a learning mindset and potential, I know that I can work with them to help develop them as long as they have the values alignment. And then the third piece would be diversity. So if anyone knows Sean and I, you would know we are completely different people. Just you couldn't get two more different people. And that for me is so important, because I know the importance of diversity for driving really good business outcomes. It's just about how you manage that diversity, and the values alignment piece actually helps a lot with that. The mistake I made, I did hire someone too early in the piece on the expectation of growth. And yeah, sadly, I did have to let that person go, which was like a terror. Like, I never wish that upon anyone. And so I need to really put on my EY, Ernst & Young hat, which is high behind the curve. So until we're kind of at that point where we, really can't get much more out of the team, as difficult as that is, it's far less bad than having to let people go, because that creates a lot of stress for lots of people, particularly the person you have to let go.
Yes, it's not much fun. I've done that a few times.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah. What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Yes. So being super clear on your why and the purpose behind your business and the values that support that. So that's something at Pleasant State we do all the time and communicate it frequently. And then really, we have a big focus on bringing people along on the journey. That's not just the direct team, that's also our suppliers and our customers. And so we talk about our strategy, we involve people in building that strategy, we talk about our upcoming plans, and we also share the ups and the downs. So being quite transparent and authentic. And then lastly would just be that customer obsession that's just throughout the organization. And that really helps ensure we have a really strong culture.
Fellow audience, how you've handled balance? Can you actually spell it at the moment?
I don't think it's really fair of me to talk about that at the moment. Honestly, when you're raising money and growing, 90% on last quarter, that is not happening. However, when I do have it right, it's when I have a good structure in my day. So waking up early, spending some time by myself. I do mindfulness practice and exercise. I also do the cold shower treatment. So effective. I do that every day. It really wakes me up. Very hard to
never catch me doing that. I had to once in Melbourne, literally Melbourne, the city of Melbourne ran out of gas. I think it was in the mid-90s, and we had to have cold showers for 2 weeks. I hated it. Yeah.
I do have to say I have a bit of an advantage with cold showers living on the Sunshine Coast. It really doesn't hit like it does in Melbourne. That is a shock. And then also going to bed early is really important for me, and getting sleep.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
Yeah, a lot. Every day, I'm learning. I just can't explain how much of a learning journey this has been for me. The first area I had to start was actually working on me as a person. So I had all the business experience, I had the technical training in building a business, but there was some stuff I had to work on as an individual in terms of like trauma that I had to address, particularly trusting people. So I'm someone who's always trusted myself. My last business I built by myself. I didn't want to build with other people. And I just knew for Pleasant State that I had to build, there was no way I was going to build this alone. Like I had to build it with people. So I had to learn to trust them. So that's probably the first area. And then any time I'm facing a new problem or a new subject matter, I definitely tap the podcasts. I will read books, but most importantly, my network. It just makes it so efficient. I have a really strong network of people across all different areas, or if I don't, I will contact my network and ask them who they can recommend I speak to, and I will go to those people specifically and get their advice. Often I'll ask a few people so I can form my own judgment based on their opinion. But the network piece is the most important. So, for example, I was invited to the Commonwealth Bank Women in Focus event. So they invite 70 business leaders annually to this event. It's incredible. And one of the speakers, I went up to her afterwards and I said, I feel I want to take my financial acumen to the next level. Like it's good, but it's just, I want to be awesome at it. And I want someone outside of my network that's not linked to Pleasant State so that they're really unbiased. And she connected me with the CFO of Unilever at the time. And so she informally mentored me after I asked her about conflict. So she was actually about to finish up. Her name's Wendy Rattray. And so we worked together informally. And I'm just so privileged. She's now our first advisor in Pleasant State.
Yeah, great. So have you had other mentors or coaches along the way?
Definitely. So that $100,000 grant loan that we received through, it was called SHEO at the time, now Corellis, also came with a coach for me, which was amazing. And then SBE, that SBE is a program for female founders building very large, scalable global businesses. So Sean and I are fortunate enough to be in that cohort this year. And so as part of that, they've pulled together a really incredible advisory team, including Hannah from Lovely. So she just sold Lovely for 35 million last year. So the caliber of mentors and coaches that we have around us is exceptional. I'm just so excited for the next phase as a result.
And do you have a board of directors, or you've got some advisors now? I saw in the email that actually came through this morning.
Yes. Yeah, that's a recent thing. As we go into the crowdfunding, I guess we realized it was time to formalize some of those arrangements. So Wendy Rattray, she was recently appointed as the Chief Operating Officer of Carmen's Kitchen, former Unilever CFO, and she headed up the home care division at Unilever at one stage. So massive experience across strategy, marketing, finance, and FMCG. Matthew Nelson, he was my old boss. It's amazing. He still wants to work with me, honestly. I'm not the easiest person. I think everyone who starts a business is probably unemployable. But he was the global head of climate change and sustainability at Ernst & Young, and he took that business to be the leading sustainability consultancy globally, and then was the first person appointed onto an executive in a chief sustainability officer role in Australia, according to EY. I'm sure I trust them. Mm-hmm. So just that brings that real sustainability credential and definitely demonstrates that we're really serious about this. And then the last is David Popov, who from Pop and Pack, who was actually instrumental in building the Pleasant State brand and brand identity. So we're super lucky.
And you've exited a business. Any advice for the audience thinking about exiting one day?
I wouldn't necessarily classify exiting Syzygy as an exit. So yeah. I'd probably say I'm not qualified to talk to that.
All right, Amy, you wanted to final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Managing cash flow and your capital strategy.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
The Happiness Advantage talks about how having a happy mentality, which is actually quite easy to learn and achieve, is a massive advantage in business. And I completely agree with that.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
I am a big listener of the Female Startup Club. She shares inspiring stories and of female founders who have built really successful e-commerce businesses from across the globe. And they really go into detail in specific issues. So very much like this podcast, Troy, it goes into the nuts and bolts of business.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
So again, I'll focus on e-commerce, but because customer is so important to us and it should be important to everyone, we use a really great tool called Gorgeous, which basically brings in all customer queries from email, Facebook, Instagram, our website, and we triage that and send it to the appropriate team member. So we're always keeping our finger on the pulse and responding to customers in a timely fashion.
Finally, my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 3.5 years ago?
That your network will be so important, and don't underestimate the value of that. And be willing to sort of call upon them any time. So as a result, never burn your networks. And I think one of the things I've just been so surprised about with this crowdfunding is how many people are popping up. We're talking people who I worked with 20 years ago, coming in with quite significant investments and being super clear that they're investing in me because they've worked with me. So people buy into people, and then, they love the idea and stuff. They're not even necessarily customers, but they're the ones that will back you both in the good and the bad times.
That's right. Most investors invest in the people first, not the product or the idea. Yeah.
100%.
And for the audience, so your crowdfunding campaign is live at the moment when this episode goes live. So either Google virtual and then the 2 words, Pleasant State, and it'll come up. But we'll include it in the show notes if people want to go and check it out and invest. I've invested in a few crowdfunds myself. And yeah, it's a great thing, particularly with such a great social cause and purpose that you and Sian and the team have. Congratulations on the growth to date. And I think we'll have to have you back on in a couple of years see where you're at.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Troy.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.